What's going on, everyone, and welcome to episode number 140 of the TXR Podcast, the absolute best place on Sunday nights to kick back, relax, and pop a crisp cold one and listen to gaming news, rumors, and interviews. I'm your host, Invader, and I'd like to wish all of our American listeners and viewers a happy 4th of July weekend. I hope you're all having a good time, having a barbecue going on, and just enjoying the holiday. And of course, as well, a few days ago, it was Canada Day. And I have to wish a happy Canada Day to all my fellow Canadian listeners just joining us, like J-Dubs here. Yeah, happy Canada Day, bud. And yeah, let's get this party started. Get on to the panel intros. And for tonight's show, we're joined by two absolute powerhouses in the Xbox community. Both are members of the Gamers United Guild, between the friendly podcasts of NLG, TXR, Four Guys with Quarters, and the Retro Renegades. And first up from the Retro Renegades, we have the graphic god Jay Williams with us. How have you been, man?
I'm doing great. Yes, thank you for inviting me. Happy 4th of July to everyone. Happy 1st of July for all the Canadians here. Yeah, this was a long time coming. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course, buddy. You know we'd love to have you. And yeah, before we get started, Jay, what have you been playing recently? Anything good?
Actually, I've been dipping into Game Pass, and I've been playing The Messenger. And absolutely loving that game. If anyone hasn't played it and they like, 16-bit style ninja games with witty dialogue, the game is hilarious. The game is very, very retro. It's right up my alley.
Isn't that made by Devolver?
Yeah,
no, I'm thinking of Katana Zero or whatever that is.
I'm not quite sure. But my other go-to game that I play an awful lot of is Mortal Kombat 11. And I've just been trying to perform all the friendships and all of the stage fatalities recently. I'm not much of a seeker of the gamer score. Like I'm not one of those guys that has to go out and 1,000 every game I play. But if I'm having fun, I'll keep playing it. But for the most part, that's what I've been playing. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Definitely have to check that out sometime. And also joining us from the terrific NLG podcast, we got Mike Mullis. Hey, Mike, how's things at your end?
Oh, what's going on, Invader? Hey, I already brought the 2 downvotes with me, so they found me. They found me. What's going on, guys? It's about time I get to do a show with Jeremy. He missed the last one I was on.
What are you talking about? I was here. You just forgot.
You were not. You weren't. Dude, you weren't on the last one. Are you sure?
You're getting old, buddy. Sorry.
I am getting old. There is no doubt about that. I thought it was just me.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was just a hold of you.
Wait a second.
Oh,
he's saying, Mike. He's
right.
saying you're getting old, but he's the one with gray in his beard.
Oh yeah, I'm starting. Yeah, he is, but I'm starting to catch him. I'm starting to catch him. What's up,
Jay?
Jay?
Knows already what's going on, buddy.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today, Mr.
Course.
Jay. Yeah. Full disclosure, Jay has done work for me in the past. Thank you, Jay. I really appreciate your services.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome artist. And Mike, thank you for
my brother. My brothers. This is great. I love coming on here. This is it's awesome. Be supported. We're all part of this. We're all part of the same team, right? Gaming.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. Jay, happy Nova Scotia Day if they have that kind of thing.
Not really, but yeah, every day is Nova Scotia Day for me, right?
There you go.
Jeremy, I just want to remind you that since I have done your art in the past and I still have the original files, I can put a little gray in the beard for your character if you like.
Hey, wow.
You could. How about like a little box of Just for Men or something on the side? And it could be dyed in or something.
He could be there with the little brush.
Yeah, a little Just for Men box right beside his avatar. All right, fellas, we'll move on to the other TXR members on the panel. Centurion Buddy, hey, you must be tired from your podcast workout earlier.
Oh yes, second podcast today.
Yeah.
Let's start hours 3 and 4. I got to do a podcast today with Stubbs Gaming on his podcast, the Stubbcast. Kind of revealed a little bit about myself on his show. Talked some games, talked other stuff. It was actually a fun couple hours. And now here we are, ready to talk more games for another couple hours with another group of awesome people.
Stubbs does
it's
a good
refreshing.
show, man.
Oh yeah.
Who Stubbs?
Sorry.
Yeah,
Stubbs does a really good show. He had me on last month. Yeah, I love that one-on-one thing he does. It's different, it's unique, and nobody else is doing it that I know of. And
Yeah, I mean, like actually, and I know Invader sat down with him. You have sat down. I have. Dealer.
Jay sat down.
Yeah. And it's
he's
actually really cool because it's like kind of like the people that you all love to listen to their opinions. All of a sudden, you're hearing about them.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I sat down with him a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, it was a nice talk. He doesn't ask you the usual kind of stuff, and it's really personal. Well, it's very personal the way that he goes about things. So
Yeah, and it's not like forced personal. He just asks questions, and whatever you put out there is on your own accord.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But moving along here, Shock Buddy, Eric Shockley, how's things at your end?
Oh, pretty good. I've been trying to finish Last of Us. I swear that game feels like the pacing's a little off in it. It feels really long. I think I'm at like 23 hours in it.
You're not allowed to say that, by the way.
I feel like I'm halfway. No, it's really good. It's just some of the pacing. There's some flashback parts in it that kind of throw off the pacing that some people have complained about. But the combat, now I've switched over to a different. I don't know. I probably shouldn't say anymore. But
What game are we talking about?
Last of Us 2, Part 2.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I don't think it's too much of a spoiler since they've kind of like shown it in like every trailer. But I'm playing as the other character that's not Ellie now, and the combat's a little bit different. So that's kind of a cool change of pace, though. So it kind of gives you kind of a fresh look halfway through the game. So that's been pretty cool. Just trying to get through it so I can not hear any more like spoilers.
You know, while you're just bringing this up, Shockley, the other day I thought about this when it came to Last of Us 2, just because I'm seeing how toxic people are getting with when they don't like plot choices that were made, and all of a sudden they're like making death threats because they don't like the direction that a fictional character is taking in their life. I have no idea. Could you imagine what would happen nowadays if Darth Vader came out and said, "Luke, I am your father"? Do you know how many people would probably threaten to burn that guy's house down or something? Like, I'm just saying, it'd be I'm just saying, like, I'm just shocked on just how people are just taking it a little too far. Now, all of a sudden, I find myself wanting to play The Last of Us 2 because I'm just like, I'm wanting to find out what is making people lose their minds.
Well, there's definitely some, I won't say it for anyone that hasn't played it, but when you watch the trailers initially, it basically, I would say, like, and movies do this all the time. They'll show you things and like, oh, this is how the game is going to be because this is what it's showing me. This is who I'm going to be with or whatever, and then that completely is not the case. So
it turns upside down.
Yeah, so people were calling it like false advertising. I see on Twitter today, but it's like this is common. Almost every movie you see, you'll see stuff in the trailer that just wasn't in the cut. So so there's definitely some stuff like that where people are just like pissed. Kind of like when you had Metal Gear Solid 2. People were pissed when, hey, are you playing at Raiden? Oh, sorry.
And don't forget Hunt the Truth.
Yeah.
Hunt the Truth.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You know what? It's refreshing to see your guys' mugs on here. It really is because, number one, I was the only one doing it for a while, and I'm like, no one else is doing this, so I'm not going to do it anymore. But I'll tell you, because number one, I think Tim's too ugly to be on cam, and then as for Megatron, I think he's too tall to be on cam because every time he does use his cam periodically, you see the ceiling fan because I think, But anyway, I appreciate you guys coming on cam and showing your mugs.
Yeah, well, I have nothing to hide.
Well, that was a funny thing when I first jumped on. I was talking with Invader. I then realized, oh God, Mike's going to be on here, and I didn't have my camera on right away. And I said, well, I can't have Mike show me up. Gotta put my camera.
But speaking of which,
What are people gonna do to me? I'm 47. What really? What are they gonna do? They gonna put my name on, put my face on a meme on Twitter? Oh no!
Yeah, exactly.
oh, now you just started something, Mike. Watch out. Oh man, Jeremy, buddy, nice to see your mug on the screen. Of course. How have you been enjoying the long weekend?
It's been a long week, actually. It's been crazy. Right now, we're in the super busy time, and it's just been chaos at the store, and it's been fun, but nevertheless, it's been crazy. So, but everything's been good. I haven't been able to get some gaming in, unfortunately. But yeah, everything's good, man. Thank you.
All right, I'm happy to hear that. Of course.
Are you really happy though? Are you really happy, or are you just saying that?
Yeah, you're right. I'm just putting on a charade. I'm sorry, guys. Everybody in the chat, everybody, on the panel. I'm like, I'm just. It's a ruse right now. What I'm pulling, a ruse.
A ruse.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to be fancy here, got a podcast going on. But guys, we're going to go on to our first topic of the evening. And it looks like Sony are weighing in on acquiring a company called Liu Technologies Holdings. It's a Hong Kong-based gaming firm. Now, obviously, all kinds of studios and firms are being acquired by big publishers these days to drive content on their platforms. And Sony's looking to this, as stated by their chief executive officer, Kenichiro Yoshida. They're looking to acquire. Liu is listed at about 1.2 billion in market value. That's quite a chunk of change there. And they own game studios and have certain holdings for game studios such as Digital Extremes, which make Warframe, Splash Damage, which have worked on or have made Gears Tactics, and have a 20% stake in certain Affinity. So, some name studios there. Jeremy, I'm going to head straight to you on this one. What do you think of the likelihood of Sony acquiring Liu?
During the past 2 months, we've heard so many rumors on acquisitions and just the rumor mill swirling about who's going to be buying who and who's up for sale. I'm not believing anything until we get some proof that's going to happen. But as of right now, I'm still on the fence whether or not this is going to happen. Does it make sense? I mean, Warframe is actually it's one of these cash cows. People are still playing. There's a heavy community that drives it's a popular game. It still is to this day. So, it is a cash cow. It's one of these games that, Sony can just, collect money from moving forward and maybe make a Warframe 2 if they get the opportunity, which will be very popular if it comes out. I don't see it happening. I'm just going to take a guess here. I don't know. I don't have any inside information on anything, but they're a relatively reasonable price right now. I mean, their shares are only like at $2.75 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they can get them at a reasonable price, which is what 1 billion,
1.1,
1.23, 1.1. I don't know. It's one of these things where does it make sense for Sony to buy them? Probably not. I mean, I think Sony's more in tune to making some bigger moves. They bought Insomniac for what? Like, how much did they buy them for?
Wasn't it like 400 million, something like that?
400 million, 500 million. And that, to me, that's a great bargain. For a quality developer like Insomniac. I think
especially with the IPs that they have in their history.
Yeah, and this doesn't really work with their first party infrastructure, so to speak. It really doesn't go with the model. Their priorities first player, single player games, and that's what they're focused on. These big production games, high production value. So I don't see them making this move at all.
Yeah, and Microsoft and Sony recently, they haven't been doing like takeovers. They've been like adding developers that want to be bought or want the funding. Kind of like Insomniac, they have a long time relationship, and that's how Sony's done it pretty much with all of their studios, Guerrilla, Naughty Dog.
Yeah, that's a
Because you don't want to be like
touchy
Rare
subject
again, where
because-
Microsoft buys Rare and then like 30
Right.
of their best developers and
Right.
walk out the door before they even start business.
Mhm.
right.
Everybody's like, it's
You gotta-
Rare. They killed Rare. I'm like, no, a lot of the Rare talent just walked out the door as soon as Microsoft
And
bought them.
Yeah, and at that point, it's irrelevant whether or not it's irrelevant whether you purchase them or not because nobody wants to be there. They don't have the same foundation that teams had, in previous years.
Classic example is BioWare.
Well,
Yeah.
BioWare,
BioWare.
Respawn.
Well, they were fine until like I think because of like what Mass Effect 2 was great and that was under EA, but then when like environment or then working environment maybe didn't continue to be a good.
Were they owned by EA when they made Mass Effect 2, or were they
No.
just
Yes.
working with EA?
Yes, they were owned by EA.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Yeah,
thought
they
they-
were. They were. Yeah,
Microsoft
it
got
came
like
out.
a year one time exclusive or exclusivity with them for Mass Effect 2.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and then their next big game was obviously Part 3, which
Right.
received considerable backlash on the ending part.
Hey, all that carrying over your saves? It didn't mean anything.
Right.
So, but yeah, I don't see them buying Leu. So,
Mhm. I mean, there are some interesting studios here. Obviously, Digital Extremes. They're not too far from me. They're based in London, Ontario, if I'm not mistaken. They did Dark Sector, again, Warframe, which has been very popular this generation, especially early on. That game's very successful.
Dark Sector was a good game. It was, that's the 360 game, right? With the
Yeah.
he's flying
It
through.
was-
No, actually, I
They had
take
a
that
rocket.
back.
It was
I
360.
take that back. I take that back. That's not a good game.
It was a, it was
it's like a hit.
It was a decent game. It was
okay.
a decent.
It was
I would
okay.
say it's a 7.5. It definitely was a lot more overhyped than what we ended up getting because they had the Rocky development where they like scrapped half what they had partway through
Yeah.
the development. Ended up being slightly kind of like Splinter Cell Conviction was going to be something and then totally went a different direction.
But I do say, that Warframe is very enticing. They can do a lot with the series if they put some money behind it, and just increase the development, the developer side, in terms of how many people they have coming in. I mean, Warframe could be huge. It's huge already, but it's one of these games to where it can really, given the right developers and just the right people coming, it could be one of these games where it could be a Fortnite type cash cow type game.
Yeah, that's true. And then even if you look at Splash Damage too, obviously they've worked on what's it called, the Gears Tactics. Actually, even Gears of War 4, Gears Ultimate Edition. There's some good work done there, but then they worked on some mixed reaction games like Brink and Dirty Bomb, just to name a few. Not exactly like they're an interesting studio, but I mean, I would say Microsoft would be more interested in Splash Damage than what Sony
Didn't
would.
Didn't they also work on the Master Chief Collection?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Part
they
of it,
did.
yeah.
So, yeah, no, they've worked hand in hand with Microsoft on quite a few things from the looks of it. And then even Certain Affinity has a relationship, a pretty good relationship with Microsoft, considering a lot of the higher ups there did work on Halo, if I'm not mistaken. So,
Didn't they also work on Halo Wars? Was Certain Affinity?
you know what? I'd have to look into that, to be honest.
Hang on, I'm looking it up.
But I think they
I'm
made.
sorry,
you're not gonna-
that's Creative Assembly. I'm sorry. Had my CAs mixed up.
Yeah, no, that's
And you're not going to have any of these deals leak either. I mean, there's so much at stake with these deals. Now, if you start leaking and start, jumping the gun as far as, who's buying who, then you create a scenario where your shareholders and your stakeholders are just, they'll bounce and it'd be a crazy situation. Just look what happened with, Beats and Apple. That whole deal with Doc. I mean, yeah, the deal still went through, but at the time, it was there was a question mark on whether or not that deal was ever going to go through since it leaked. So I mean, what it could do financially for a company, what it can do as far as the employees and turnover, it'd be catastrophic. So I don't see any of these deals leaking anytime soon. I mean, it could happen, but knowing this day and age.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, if it does, I wonder if Microsoft would potentially counter with the call up AT&T.
Well, WB would be interesting.
This would be a good announcement after Microsoft show. Like, hey, we just added this, to take their whatever they announced, some of that
Sure.
shit.
I don't know if that's I don't know. I can see them. I can see this going through. Reading up on what's been going on with Leo Technologies, the other folks that are involved, one of them manufactures plastics, and the other one has a stake in Tencent, which I'm actually surprised isn't the front runner right now. Tencent's kind of growing its portfolio, but
yeah, Tencent's actually a pretty good company.
Yeah, if I'm looking at my company and those are my choices, and Sony wants to step up, knowing they've got the PS5 around the corner, knowing that they invest heavily in their first party development, I'm really interested. Warframe would likely, I would assume that games like Warframe would stay as they are. There's a lot of investment in the other platforms. This was floating around, so I'm not certain of this, but doesn't Leu have a stake in SNK? I've seen that. I saw it on Twitter, and of course, everything you read on Twitter is true. But I wasn't sure if that was actually.
Yes, they do.
Okay,
so SNK, Mike. Take it for what it's worth. They're dead. I mean, really, it's their IPs that are intriguing. I'd buy SNK just for their IPs alone.
I would buy SNK for their IPs. I mean,
right. In terms of their developer, they have a lot of titles too. They can just port over real quick, and it's automatically just a heavy library. It's kind of like one of these studios that have like a breadth of some nice titles back to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they just a couple weeks ago just brought out a new Samurai Showdown, or at least the Neo Geo collection. And to be honest, those games, SNK really concentrates the majority of their games on both the Switch and the PS4. So it's not a far-fetched idea that they would continue on that path and just be a first-party studio for Sony.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not out of the question, I would say, Mike, because of the studios and the IP that are involved here. SNK is, well, it's definitely interesting that they have it there, but even with like the other studios from North America and England, it's I would say it's not a bad package. So it would be very tempting for Sony if they wanted to expand their portfolio. And again, like I would say, like, how do I put this, guys? Like, it's interesting with all this because it seems like there's a bit of a publisher arms race going on here with all these studios being bought up by all these big publishers, you know.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of trouble right now in terms of who's making money and who's not. Right now, in this day and age, it costs so much to make a video game. That's why you see. I mean, Capcom just recently made a surge back, and they kind of re-envision and reimagine themselves and kind of rebranded themselves in a way where they're making good games now, and which they're making some money now on them. So they were in trouble for a little while, and back in the day, a few years ago, we heard stories of Capcom being bought out by somebody, Sony. I think there were some rumors swirling around as far as that goes. But again, it just costs so much money now. If you can get funding behind the games that you want to make and just partner with somebody that you like, whether it's a Microsoft or Sony or a Nintendo. I don't see Nintendo buying anybody anytime soon, but that's what they're going to do because it makes sense. You can still get the games created that you want to make, and you don't have no financial obligation. Yeah, you have to hit your budgets and deadlines and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, you don't have to put your own money towards it. You can have somebody else fund it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's an interesting article that popped up, interesting news with Leo Technologies that Sony would be buying. I mean, I do see them acquiring more studios in the near future. It's just a matter of, how, again, Insomniac was pretty reasonable, 400. So for this, I don't know if they go for like $1.2 billion worth of studios, but still interesting piece of news, guys. I'm going to transition now into our next topic, fellas, and it looks like next gen games are going to get a bit pricier. Now, a few days ago, 2K Games announced that the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 versions of NBA 2K11 will cost $70 US, which is about $10 more than the current generation games. And I'll say this, with 2K doing this already, I can't imagine they're the only publisher increasing the cost of their games in the coming months. Jay, I'll go to you first on this one, bud. How do you feel about the prospect of next-gen games going up in price? Because, hey, as Canadians, we already get hit pretty hard as it is.
Definitely. I mean, we're already paying $79 plus tax, and the tax changes depending on what province you're in. So when I'm done buying a game at $79, it's usually close on $90 after taxes.
Wow.
So and that's for a new game, and that is why I love Game Pass. But I still remember being a kid. I mean, I don't remember when that whole transition changed from when the games went from like all over the place. It was basically the wild, wild west of gaming prices back in the 90s. I remember buying Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition for the Sega Genesis, paying $100 for it. And this was 1993, something like that.
Yeah.
So
that's a little bit different. I mean, because you're looking at cartridges were expensive to make.
Right.
And that's part of the reason. I mean, look at the Neo Geo, with the games were like $75 or something like that, $80.
They are more than that.
Yeah, some of them were more than that. Now they're a fortune.
Yeah,
a small fortune, the right ones anyway. But it's just
stupidest decision I ever made.
Yeah, it's one of those things too where, again, I'm going to repeat, and sorry to cut in on you, Jay, but
no, not at all.
It's one of those things where the development costs are so high and so much that you have to raise these prices in order to stay afloat. They're not doing it just because, we're going to just, cash in on these, on the video game craze because of code. That's not what's happening. it costs a lot of money, and that's why you see you see these rumors on Bloomberg and whatnot about these companies being put up for sale.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it costs a lot of money to make a game, and one game, if you have one fail and a heavy investment into one game, it can break you.
Oh, we've
It can
seen
break
it.
you.
We've definitely
Yeah,
seen
we've
it.
seen it.
And
So
what was
it's
the
one
quote-
of those scenarios.
What was the quote that came out not too long ago? Was it from Mark Cerny talking about how he wished there were shorter games being produced?
Sean Layden.
Oh, Sean Layden.
Layden.
Okay. Honestly, as a gamer I've been gaming since the 70s, I kind of don't like really long games. I'll play them.
Yeah.
But if there's a game that I know is 100 hours, it's probably going to still be on my back burner. If I know I have a game that's maybe 10 hours, like six to 10 hours, I'll play that right away because I know I can get through it. You know, my gaming time is limited, and I don't want to invest a lifetime on a video game. I just don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
It's why I never played The Witcher 3. It's why I haven't. It's why I didn't.
What?
Got 3 days into Red Dead Redemption 2. Put that on the shelf.
Oh my gosh!
Did you not play Skyrim?
That's back when I had time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've played all those games.
When I had, let me tell you,
time
when
anymore, buddy.
Right. When I had time, I played EverQuest Online Adventures and Phantasy Star Online. I don't have that time anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's I wish there was. So everybody laughs, and De Niro's in the chat room, so he's gonna laugh because I'm gonna bring it up, and everybody knows where I'm headed. There's a reason that I'm invested in the Amico. Those games are not going to be long. They're not going to be overtly complex. I'm going to be able to pick it up, play some stuff, even play with my kids, put it down, go on with my day. I mean, there is just
Mike, I would say right now, Amico couldn't come out at a better time. Because it's one of these things where more people are staying home now, more families are staying home now. I think this is a blessing in disguise for Tommy and team, to where they're going to be making a lot of money. Come October, whenever the system comes out.
Now crossing fingers that it does.
I just wish him the best because I know, he's very passionate about the project. And I know that he has some good people behind him. But going back to, some of these, we've seen this during the 360 era where games went up $10 in price. You guys remember the games went from $49.99 to the 360 back to the 360 era where we were buying gamer picks and themes and a whole lot of digital artwork for our Xbox 360. Those days on just buying what you buy and that's it are over. There's microtransactions. That's why I don't get why people get so frustrated and angry about microtransactions. If you don't want them in the game, don't buy them.
Don't buy them.
There's a lot of people that confuse microtransactions with pay to win.
Well, yes.
I hate. It's like a trick question when somebody's like,
"Okay, but nobody has an issue playing to win on a mobile game when they spend money. Why all of a sudden they have there's this outcry and crybabies over the freaking console gaming? I mean, it's the same thing.
If I may say, you're right, Jeremy. The thing is, it's kind of annoying as well because I'll give you an example. Take Halo 5 Guardians. The competent game, don't get me wrong, the multiplayer and all. But when they put in the rec packs, for example, sure, you can earn them without money. The problem is they had a lot of stuff that was tied to the rec packs, whether it be armor skins or emblems. It was just annoying when going back a couple of years, to previous Halos, they were earned just for completing certain levels or getting certain ranks and so on. Yeah. And then you go to that, it's like, well, it's annoying that way. You can't pick and choose.
but
Like if I
that's
have,
the
For map packs still then?
so
Like on Halo
yeah. So
2 and 3. And then they would devise or spread the or not spread, but like divide the player base because not all of your friends would buy.
yeah. So
the map.
so those things are a tweaking issue. It's like tweaking the gameplay. You tweak your microtransactions or whatever. You got to tweak it. It's just,
Okay,
well,
me speaking from experience on both games, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I played the hell out of Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2 on the Xbox One. We're not talking about the original games on the PS2. So Battlefront 1, amazing multiplayer concept. The weapons and the perks of that game were made by, the one item that comes to mind is the bow rifle. The only way to get this weapon is to encounter another player who has already gotten it, because basically it was given to developers and developers went out and played with this weapon. And the only way you can get this weapon is to melee somebody and kill them. And if you kill this person and they have this weapon, you basically now unlock it in your game, making it to where people, if you're using it melee you, they can get the weapon, because basically they made it a recognizable weapon. So you would look for it on the battlefield and start trying to get people to do it. They would do feats like that. And then Battlefront 2 came out, and all of a sudden people with credit cards can like max out all these characters. And I remember the one, it was like Boba Fett. It had something tied to his jetpack. Like if you already maxed out Boba Fett, you could pretty much fly indefinitely, and also increase his damage and everything else. Basically, if you had a credit card, you had the upper hand in being able to create characters that could level the playing field very quickly compared to somebody who couldn't do that.
yeah, but to me that's
they
short.
did take away
I
the free
understand.
and they gave that stuff for free.
I understand, but to me that's short term. A lot of these players who pay money to win, basically, they're just doing it because of time restriction. Maybe they're just not good enough, but over time, you're going to see these players, who are really good and they play the game religiously, just wipe the floor with.
Oh yeah, and that's I participate a lot in microtransactions purely because a lack of time. Like I've said it in a couple shows this week. I've done 53 hours this week. I'm going to be doing 53 hours next week. I've had a little bit of time to play Elder Scrolls Online, and that's it, regretfully.
Yeah.
all right.
So,
Yeah, just interesting, guys, because of recent world events with, just the increasing game prices here. Maybe it's not exactly the best move. Like, well, I guess we'll see in the coming months. But
it's inevitable.
Do you think it's actually a really good time? Honestly, you actually have services like Game Pass to actually help supplement gamers that are on a budget. I don't like using that term, but yes, there is some people out there that game on a budget, or have preferences on how much that they will actually spend on a game, and Game Pass helps make up for that. And I'm pretty sure companies like EA, Activision, companies that are very aware of controlling their profits, we'll just call it, they know that these services are now existing. So maybe in their room, like maybe it is time to start upping the price of games a little bit, just because now that there's not this, But now this also doesn't say the games have to be that expensive. We're seeing great games come out right now. Like Maneater came out at $39.99. State of Decay came out at $40, even though it was in Game Pass. But a lot of these games have Disintegration recently came out at $49.99. So definitely there's going to be different tiers of games. It's kind of like based on price now. I only see that $70 price tag, $80 price tag really for these games that really are going to be hundreds of hours.
Right. And that's what my question is. Does it carry over to some of the other games that we get for $19.99, $29.99? Does it carry over on those types of games? There's a big question mark regarding that.
Yeah, good point.
Does it raise everything by $10 basically?
Right. Exactly.
Right. I mean, we've seen them supplement to like this generation. We've had who knows how many deluxe editions, digital deluxe editions, gold editions. Like they've been offsetting their costs in a lot of ways, but eventually the prices, I guess, we're gonna jump.
Maybe this is actually time, because this has actually been leading to another debate I keep hearing everybody talk about. Does this mean we're going to start getting a price difference when it comes to physical and digital?
Oh my God, you and I need to play the lotto and pick the same numbers, because I was just about to say that.
And the answer is absolutely not.
Well, I wonder is it's gonna, but now it's starting to become.
Walmart ain't going for that. Walmart ain't going for that.
Well, but somebody's got to flinch, because the idea now that people have been skating around the whole, what are you paying for if the game's the same price digitally versus physical? Now that people are getting, digital is becoming more of the mainstream than it is the niche. And if we're getting above, let's say, and I don't know that we're there yet. I haven't seen statistics.
COVID-19 is going to hammer the nail in the coffin on that. I walked into Best Buy today. The Xbox and PlayStation sections were nothing but green and blue walls.
Yep. Yeah, mine too. My Target over here, they're in a console to be had. There isn't a game to be had. But you know what? The difference is the digital. If digital now gets above 50%, which you're right, with COVID probably is if it's not happening already, it's going to that conversation is going to manifest itself by people who are going, oh, wait a minute. If I go to the store, if I don't want to go to the store and pay for the box and the manual and the shipping and the retail and the tax and all that stuff, why am I paying the same price digitally? Now, the counter to that is that, well, maybe the price physically maybe the price physically would be higher, but we're not charging it. I mean, there's two ways to go about it, but at some point, those two price structures have got to have, one of them has to give way.
Are we paying for convenience?
There's no such thing as a convenience cost.
No.
I see convenience. Like, go look at the cost of ramen in Circle K compared to Walmart.
That's brand. That's
not convenience. It's buying power.
Well, that's buying power, but also no. Actually, if you think about it, the convenience is you're parking in a much smaller parking lot. You're able to get into a store quicker. You look at it like. I've been actually shown how much people will pay for convenience. Actually, there is people that will pay for convenience. In my line of work.
We're talking about two different things. You're talking about people paying for convenience as opposed to just, markets, jacking the price up because of it.
Well, I'm not talking. Well, okay. I have seen the breakdown of games. When you look at physical games, actually, there's a lot of tied into physical games when it comes to cost. There's actually cost built into physical games for returns. Just because we can't actually return games in the United States and other countries you can, there's actually a cost built into physical games for returns for that very purpose. There is a lot of stuff built into those physical copies that does not exist in these digital copies.
Right.
Well, some of you go to Target or something or wherever these places, they charge a restocking fee, and that's pretty much basically what it is, a restocking fee. Some companies do it, some companies don't. But
Noof's not going to agree with this, but I've always had a slogan: buy hard drives, not shelves. Okay, look at my shelves, guys. My shelves are full. I have no more space. I'm not buying more shelves. I'm going digital, and that's the way it goes.
On my shelf are retro games. That's what I have on my shelf.
Yeah, I don't know. I do agree with Noof's sentiments, though. Like, I mean, I understand everybody's situation, but just, oh man, if the price has to jump up a lot, we're gonna be paying like $100 here in Canada.
It's crazy. I know.
It makes no sense. And what's going to happen is people are going to buy less games because, especially in this environment, they can't afford it, and so those companies who are making those large games are going to start seeing their return on investment drop. It's going to make it harder for them, and you'll see a lot more acquisitions. I mean, this is a cycle that is not going to end well, especially for independent developers that don't have that don't have large backings. I mean, whatever the next game that Remedy's working on after Control came out, that game better be that game. I mean, especially since Control, I don't think did all that well. That game better be fire, or they're going to find somebody to buy them. I mean, it's just things like that. That's just one example. I'm not pointing Remedy out because I know anything, but they're the first ones that came to mind in the sweepstakes. I mean, look, why is Warner Brothers up for sale? There's got to be a reason. If they're doing that well, and they have Mortal Kombat, and they have Batman, and they've got serious IP, but apparently they have the need to put it out there to be sold. Why? So,
well, that has to do more with AT&T's end, I believe. But
well, sure. But if AT&T felt like Warner Brothers was making them substantial money in that department, they wouldn't want to get rid of that. That
they might be eyeing a bigger purchase and need the cash on hand to make some moves somewhere else. I'm guessing. Like maybe Warner Brothers isn't making them so much money that they're like, oh, okay, we might want to invest or make it out here. That could be why, and that gives them a lot of cash if they get like $4 billion. They can put that towards something else.
Yeah, well, Noof says they're over $100 billion in debt. I mean, $4 billion doesn't,
Well, I'd have to double check that.
Who's in debt right now?
Well, we're talking about the demise of AT&T.
Well, according to
they bought DirecTV. They
Nukem.
lost out on that one.
Yeah.
Dude. They bought out. So many people have cut the cable, and COVID-19, like a couple articles I read, said it's accelerated how many people are starting to cut the cable when it comes to satellite companies, especially. Everybody's kind of moving over to like internet-based television because they all live busy lifestyles, and they'd rather have it on demand than have to juggle. Yeah.
And I have DirecTV. I've had DirecTV for, good Lord, 25 years. I mean, it's
I
it's
still got
great.
them right now. I actually like DirecTV, but
it's also more expensive.
It's more expensive, and I'll be the first one to come out on this one, and I'll probably die on the sword on the hill. But their customer service has sucked since AT&T has bought them.
I don't think that has anything to do with it. I mean, you said they're $4 billion in debt. A lot of that is labor costs. That's the first thing that goes.
No, well,
that's the first thing that goes, and their customer service suffers because of it.
When you actually looked at like some of the things that DirecTV did back in the day, they were like, we're number one in customer service. I remember when I first got with them, they were an amazing company to deal with, and they merged with AT&T. And then you get these emails about how your account numbers have been canceled and that your new account numbers are this, and everything got messed up. And when you're trying to figure out what's going on, it was just a total mess.
I think what happened was AT&T invested heavy in DirecTV.
At the wrong
now, to me, and now there's no reason. There's absolutely no reason to own cable to invest in cable. There's no reason to buy cable because you have so many options and so much content, whether it's Netflix, Disney Plus, Apple TV. I mean, just the list goes on and on. You can watch YouTube all day, for crying out loud.
And also the plus side is you're not locked into contracts. A lot, you can basically come and go from these services as you please. You're done with Disney Plus this month, move on to Netflix or go to the next guy. You're actually not locked in. You can come and go.
And I mean, just think about it. So many people are just glued to their phone now. They're watching movies through their phone. They're just on. They're not watching. The days of families sitting down watching TV are gone. Those days are gone. Now it's, everybody's on their phone or watching Netflix and stuff like that. Those days are gone.
Especially kids.
And do I think one day maybe the consoles will be like that and just, I think one day it will be that. Are we there yet? No, but I do say in a good 15 to 20 years, maybe even sooner than that, maybe even 10 years, to where consoles are a thing in the past because technology has taken over. Bandwidth, not bandwidth, but download speeds are just through the roof, and we're going to be able to get these games streamed into on our TV, straight to, it's going to be a lot more efficient.
or to our
Yeah,
phone.
or to our phone.
I mean, I tell you, the more I have watched and thought and gotten through the initial reactions of Facebook gaming, I started to realize that that this whole thing with Microsoft and Facebook honestly doesn't have a damn bit of thing to do with Facebook gaming. Microsoft could actually care less about Facebook gaming, to be quite honest. What they're eyeing is Facebook.
I think they do care. Yeah.
They're looking at Facebook itself.
Yes. Yes.
They're looking at that click to play, and if you could, go ahead.
Well, I'm glad you clarified that. But as far as click to play, what do you mean by that?
So you're watching, you got somebody on Instagram, right? And let's say it's Frankie O'Connor, and he's playing Halo Infinite, right? And he's showing it like through his Instagram page, because they'll be able to stream through all that shit. And you as a you're looking at that, and there's a little button that says click to play, and it takes you, if you've got, let's say you've got xCloud. That takes you to Halo Infinite, and maybe it's a play with Frankie. Maybe it's you get, this is where somebody like Ninja or Shroud should have been used. Come play with me, and now you've got this on eyes that you've never had before. And if they click to play and they don't have Halo Infinite, they don't have xCloud, they take you right to the sign up page for it, and you drop your credit card in, and all of a sudden, hey man, I got Halo Infinite, and now you're in the ecosystem.
I was the same way as you, Mike. When I heard about Facebook gaming, because I've given up Facebook years ago. When I heard about that, I was like, okay, I'm not doing this. But more and more, I've been seeing people that I know that have been streaming on Mixer before, moved over to Facebook gaming, and their audience has blown up. So, there is potential.
I brought this up. Sure. Yeah, I brought this up last podcast. Facebook active users per month are like 2.5 billion, something like that. So I think, if you look at Microsoft or Xbox's perspective, they don't have a foothold in the Japanese market. They don't have a foothold in the EU. It's primarily the States. In order to capture some of those players and bring some over to Xbox, they have to look for other sources, whether it's Facebook gaming, or not. And I think that's why they made this move. And Mixer was just dead in the water as soon as it came out. I knew it, just because, again, I'm not going to get into the whole culture spiel, and it's just
Facebook, Jeremy, it's very like they have a reach. Like there's only so many platforms that have like a high number of people that you can reach. Facebook, holy crap, I don't even know the numbers, but it's a massive number of people that are on there. Right. And obviously they have Instagram as well under them, like Mike was saying, click, press to play and all that. Like there's a certain hooks there if you get xCloud in there. And Facebook, their gaming division also has a bit of a specialty too with Oculus, with VR. I was just kind of wondering, if
that works out, I'll be a very happy person, because some people know that I just recently got into VR. I have myself an Oculus Quest. If, say, in the next year or two, they come out and say, plug your USB-C plug into your Xbox Series X and use your Oculus Quest, that's like the best of both worlds for me.
Oh, that's another avenue.
And
so
now
Dreadpool,
this is where
Dreadpool said that Italian Clowns had 500 people watching him on Facebook last week.
Wild.
Now, I mean, I've gone through like because I'm part of gaming groups on Facebook, because really that's really all I do with it at this point, because Facebook's a crap show like Twitter. But I do like the gaming groups. Now all of a sudden, every 20th or 25th thing in my feed is somebody streaming a game on Facebook gaming. And so I can sit there and if I want to watch him, and it does a little autoplay so that I could get a little glimpse at it. If I like what I see, I can click on him. I mean, there's some exposure there that you don't have on YouTube. You don't have. I mean, they have a they have a built-in feed for you that no other streaming platform at this point has. You know, you could go to Twitch and you could see all the Twitch streamers, but that you have to go to Twitch because you're going to look for something like that. I'm seeing it strictly on my my Facebook feed, and if I want to watch it, boom.
Yeah, it allows them to amplify where Mixer just was not going to be able to push xCloud.
No.
You know, I think once Xbox gets its feet on the ground in terms of, you know, some of these games that are coming out, you know, in the past they've released just I'm going to be upfront, they released garbage. You know, Sea of Thieves was a disaster when it first came out. You look at Crackdown 3, you look at State of Decay. Those games cannot come out. Yeah.
Don't talk about my Crackdown 3.
Like the early PS3 years is what it was.
Well, okay, what I'm getting at is now with Facebook Gaming, when Microsoft releases a great game, you know, look at Sea of Thieves on Steam. You know, Sea of Thieves now is in a playable state, a very good state to where people want to play it. It wasn't like that 2 years ago. It wasn't like that a year and a half ago, or even a year ago. Now, if you're with my Xbox's vision, and they're creating these games, buying these games, or these studios that create great experiences, it's going to catch like wildfire with their model now going to the gas games as a service. You know, I think sky's the limit as far as Xbox, you know, and some of the revenue that's going to come in with it. But they have to nail these games. Again, those games of the past cannot come out today, like and in the state that they're in, hoping that Facebook Gaming is going to be an asset to them. Because I guarantee you, if they release crap with the studios they have now, guess what's going to happen? Guess what's going to happen? It's going to spread even, you know, like wildfire even more now because of the exposure. And that's why, you know, when these games come out, they have to be good. They have to be on point. It's just one of these things where it's going to be interesting over the course of this year and next year to see exactly, you know, Xbox's investment and whether or not it's paid off or not.
Sorry, guys. Before you guys continue, I just want to say thank you for having me. I have to take off. It's 11 o'clock my time. I have to get up early in the morning for a meeting. But it was great podcasting with you guys. I've not had the pleasure to spend any time with Centurion or Shockley in the past. Nice to meet you guys. And Dan, it was nice to see you again. Invader,
you too,
my
brother.
brothers, and Michael. Mike's my brother too.
My brother Jay.
Mm-hmm. We will see you guys on the flip side later.
We'll see you Tuesday night.
That's right.
Later.
Indeed.
Yeah, it was funny when you see my camera pan off and off. I'm in the middle of my conference call, so I'm trying to walk and chew bubble gum at the same time.
That's impressive.
And, yeah, so if you see my head turn, look over, and you know I'm just kind of paying attention to it. But yeah, so hopefully I could stay on longer. I don't get called here in a second, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, guys. Well, I mean, that was a great talk about the whole, you know, if the game prices, you know, potentially could get hiked with the next gen consoles coming around. But we'll have to wait and see, obviously. Only one game seems to be doing that right now, but, you know, we'll keep our eyes peeled on that.
Well, let me ask you guys this before we move on, though, because we sort of kind of touched on services taking the mantle of that. So if every game, if let's say games kick up to $70, do you guys see services like Game Pass and EA Access raising their rates as well?
If EA Access does it, Game Pass will.
Well, EA Access was interesting. I don't know if you guys, because I don't know why, because I don't play any games of theirs lately, but their subscription is still $30 a year. So I mean, it's cheap. Microsoft's is obviously much more expensive. And of course you have PS Now, which brought their pricing down, but they're still not quite there with their selection. So, I mean, could you see?
You know what? I don't see the Game Pass price model anytime. Raising the price anytime soon. And let me tell you why. Number one is because they hover around 100, 125, 130 games. How many games are in Game Pass right now?
About 100.
Yeah, so a lot of these games.
200. There's like around 200 now.
There's 200 games in Game Pass?
I don't think
I was going to say, I thought there was over 200.
Because stuff keeps pulling out too.
Yeah,
well, not to mention Game Pass Ultimate
Well, they keep
as well.
adding stuff each week. Like whenever there's stuff coming out, there's always
that
stuff
is
like,
true. They've done more than just a monthly
in the past, they've hovered around a certain amount of games. If you get to the point where they're having a lot of content, especially day one content come in, you're going to see these prices go up. But right now, it's only first party that comes in. We haven't seen really. I mean, you can say third party, but it's some of these indie developers that are giving Game Pass a shot. You're not going to see price changes as far as that goes anytime soon because of it. I think it's going to remain $9.99 until they can get over, maybe 300 threshold. Some of these third party games getting in the mix day one on Game Pass. You'll see a price hike then. I just don't see it anytime soon.
I'm pretty sure when they originally thought up Game Pass, they probably thought of a good price that they could run with for probably a set number of years before they had to ever have that discussion of raising the price. And right now, you said this was just for 2K games, right? So, I'm curious on, this isn't something that directly affects Game Pass, because the games that end up in Game Pass are always the older version,
right?
For the most part,
right. And that's why I said, that's what I was saying. I don't see a price jump anytime soon.
Yeah,
No.
231 on Xbox now.
231 games. So yeah,
that is how far away from current gaming I have been lately.
No, we're
Me too.
People keep saying it's only 100 games, just like people.
Well, because that's what they used to advertise.
Well, no, they still advertise it as that because they never want to. When they originally created it, it was never. They originally started with 100 games, but I guess a lot of developers and publishers thought it was a great idea and they wanted to put stuff on there. So I think they just ran with it. But since then, yeah, it's always been kind of boasted as always over 100 games, but it's always been around 200 and some games.
Wow. That's insane. Wow. That's all. I mean, that is it continues to be the best deal in gaming today. I mean, it just does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see too what other publishers jump onto the whole subscription bandwagon. Obviously, Ubisoft has one that's not that great.
Anybody know about
Invader, it? I do want to ask a side question, a side topic. xCloud is still in beta.
Mm-hmm.
It's still in testing. Do you think that the app needs to come to fruition as far as like the TV app for xCloud, whether it's beta or not, needs to come? We need some news on that shortly, whether or not what the time span is as far as xCloud goes. Do you think we need to see that soon, or you think that the model that they're working with now, which is, just keep it in beta and we'll release news as it comes out? What would you like to hear from Xbox moving forward?
Well,
you want some news? Would you like some news regarding xCloud? Like, hey, it's going to officially launch in March of next year. We need that kind of news.
Well, xCloud, from my understanding, it's supposed to launch like around the same time as the Xbox Series X. I would imagine that we'll be getting some news, some kind of news, even if it's just a nugget on with the Xbox July event.
Yeah.
either that or the rumored August event too, which might be for the Lockhart announcement from the sounds of things. But I have a feeling they'll be dropping the information pretty soon when we can expect the official launch. Because you're right. I mean, they've been kind of quiet with some aspects of that, and yeah, it'd be good to know what's going on there. xCloud is gonna be their dominance. Well, it's going to be their dominant service moving on with Game Pass, right? So
yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Apple as well. If they lose Apple, I mean, because right now it's like non-existent xCloud. It's just in one of those test phases. There's still only one. It's still only one game on there. It's just Apple is just so restrictive, and it's just ridiculous. But
when, by the way, are we getting the on-screen controls? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, popping my controller back and forth on this, and I don't have the clip and all that stuff, is kind of what's stopping me from really playing this more.
I would never play with a touchscreen. Are you kidding me?
I would at least try it. I mean, there are some games that would at least to give me, but that option was supposed to be there.
Dude, the first time you can play on a touchscreen, I'm going straight into a Mortal Kombat lobby, and I'm going to rock it.
Yeah. I would love to. You should record that. Put it on your channel. Get some interesting views there.
I tell you, there's some solid games in here that I didn't realize. I don't know if you guys know this, but Yakuza 0 is in xCloud.
And the first one, yeah.
Tracks, my kid plays a ton of that. Sims 4, State of Decay 2. There's some seriously good stuff in here.
Better selection than Stadia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Stadia, they're slowly moving along. Yeah.
Right now, the guys over at Stadia are looking at what Amazon is doing very closely. When when you take a game and put it back in beta, somebody at Google's looking around. Can we do that? Can we do that? Can we put this back in beta?
Yeah, that was kind of embarrassing for Amazon.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're still kind of learning the ropes as well when it comes to gaming. But they've been quiet, though. I'll be interested, what they have to say in the next couple of months.
I love these big Fortune 500 companies that roll up their sleeves thinking that they're just going to walk into like the gaming industry and kick ass. And then they like come dragging themselves out like with a black eye, just all tore up. It's like, oh my God, it's crazy in there.
Just in the gaming industry, everything's about experience. Everything. If you're in the market, just how important. Just look at Nintendo. Nintendo makes so much money. They're probably the most profitable video game company ever. They've made the right business moves in terms of what's good for them. I've always questioned Nintendo's, just to me,
moves too.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, Nintendo is just a powerhouse as far as profitability goes. So
absolutely, guys. Now I'm gonna move us over to the next topic on the list, and guys, over the past week, we have seen a lot of buzz being generated by certain Twitter accounts, and I'm sure you know which ones I'm talking about. Some internet sleuths discovered Twitter accounts for two Microsoft IPs with placeholders in them. One is at Fable, and the other is at Perfect Dark Game. Now, the Fable account, it supposedly has a registered Microsoft account attached to it, while the Perfect Dark account is, it's a bit trickier. Supposedly, it's a fan account, but it's followed by a Microsoft employee, Ken Lobb of Xbox Game Studios, formerly of Rare. So that's kind of interesting. Now, the head of Xbox marketing, Aaron Greenberg, came out and he dismissed the account, stating that, and I quote, "I know everyone is hungry for news, but sorry to get your hopes up. These accounts have been inactive for years. It's standard practice to secure social handles for our IP. which that's true. I'm not saying that it's not, but it's an interesting statement considering these accounts they're rather new, right? Because
That's right. I responded specifically to him too, and called him out on that. I'm like, Aaron, this was just registered like last month.
Yeah,
the timing on this is horrible.
Yeah, the
horrible,
Fable.
man.
Yeah, Mike, the Fable one was created back in March of 2020, and the Perfect Dark game one, it was only created a month ago, just in June, which is, that's what a lot of people are kind of like, well, Aaron, what are you talking about? So, Mike, of course, I'll start with you on this one. It's weird trying to decipher what's real here and what's fake pertaining to these things. But what do you think is the likelihood of these accounts being real, and if we'll be seeing them in the Xbox July event?
When I heard Aaron say that, the other thing is, you don't. Sure, if you're gonna hold those accounts, those inactive accounts, why didn't you do that? Why didn't you do that a year ago? Why didn't you do that at the beginning of the generation? Why didn't you do that? Why in June?
It's fun. It's funny, Mike.
Your thing,
Mike. You ask all the right questions. And there's some people on here. I'm just gonna call him out. Tim, for example, that guy will believe anything on Twitter. If it comes through the line, I mean, he'll just believe it no matter what. He never questions it. He never questions anything. He'll just it's cut. Yeah. So we started giving him shit about it in chat. But
so, what's your opinion on these accounts?
Of course, they're real.
No, I was asking Downer. Does he think the accounts are real? No.
I think Aaron already confirmed they're real. He said it.
Yeah.
He said this is them securing. But that's where it's funny. That fan account was like, "Oh no, I just got lucky." I'm like, "Yeah, Ken Long knew this account. Knew to look for this account that would have no followers. It was a dead account, and he knew to look for you just out of the just randomly a month before. One of the creators of Perfect Dark, totally, that totally makes sense.
Yeah, I think about half, maybe a third of them are real. Half of them maybe. We'll see. There's a lot coming out. We've seen a Ninja Gaiden one. That was pretty funny, actually.
That was everybody started following.
That was the fake one.
That was
sure. It's already deleted. It's already gone.
Everybody was having fun,
The thing is this, and this is the other thing that I said to Aaron. I was tongue in cheek. The fan base has been asking for these games for a generation, and you can only ignore them for so long before people start to to walk away knowing that they're not going to get what they're asking for from you. And this is one place where they really could learn from the other two major players out there, because both Sony and Nintendo, and more so Nintendo, understand the power of their IP. Microsoft, and especially Phil, if Phil really, and I know he has been around, forever, but he's got to know that people have been asking for Perfect Dark and Fable for a decade and a half now. And the last time we got a Perfect Dark was at the beginning of the 360, the launch of the 360. So the idea that these things just popped up out of nowhere and they're just placeholders. We're not actually really going to make these games. We're just going to hold on to the Twitter accounts for them. That's so bizarre to me that it would almost be a slap in the face to the Xbox fan base if that were true.
Yeah,
if it were actually true. I could not fathom that they're sitting down at Microsoft Game Studios and now having a breadth of studios to play with. And you could spread it around. I would actually, to be honest with you, I'm not a big Fable guy myself, But I would be extremely interested to see what Double Fine could do with the Fable IP, considering their background. I mean, they're the next thing to me to Rare as far as character design and story design. Could you imagine that? And then
But
Dark,
I think I don't know. I think Fable needs to be reimagined. I think it's one of these games where get away from the British humor, get away from the humor bit. It needs to be an epic Zelda-like type experience to where it's finally going to get some of the respect it kind of deserves. I mean, Fable's kind of been one of these games where, when Peter Molyneux created the game, he promised a lot. He promised so much. You guys remember some of the shit he said.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So, I've always had high hopes for Fable. I've always had this thing to where given the right people, the right developers, the right characters, the right story arc. I've always said that Fable could be a powerhouse in this industry. It hasn't come, it's not even close to that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I just hope, Playground Games just does its due diligence. Whoever's making it, we still haven't got confirmation on it. I just hope they do their due diligence and just create a memorable experience, a great story, great characters. Because that's what Fable and Xbox needs right now. They need those type of experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's weird not having Fable around this gen.
Yeah, it is. Even though, like I said, I'm not the biggest Fable guy, but it was one of the staples of the library. Now, indulge me on one more thing, and I don't necessarily think this will happen, but I think this is the greatest thing that could happen, is that during this July show, we already know Halo Infinite, so you can't surprise people with that. But the last teaser is a Perfect Dark game, and you find out that is the Initiative's game. Is the rebirth of Perfect Dark, with all that talent that they bring in, and all that storytelling, and all these guys from all these storytelling development studios, single player development studios, and you are and their project that they wanted was, you come to find out, they went to Phil and said, "Phil, we want Perfect Dark," and Phil said, "Have at it." I would love to see that.
And I do think that, given the right people, again, Perfect Dark could be it could be Xbox's, The Last of Us 2 or Last of Us 1. It can be Xbox's, what's another great freaking game? Anyway, it could be
it could be their God of War.
Yeah, it could be their Uncharted. It could be their God of War.
It could be their Zelda.
Well, Perfect Dark.
I think they're kind of molding it. Sorry, Invader. I think they're kind of molding it into like the next Lara Croft type experience. I think that's what they're kind of aiming for. But it'd be interesting to see what they do.
I don't know. See, I don't know how you do that with Perfect Dark. Like, don't get me wrong. I want to see Perfect Dark expanded. I was a huge fan of the first game. I played the 360 one. I was like, wasn't really that keen on it personally. That seems to be what a lot of people felt.
It was weird. It was weird you couldn't jump.
Yeah. Although you could like dodge and stuff and roll, but it was kind of weird that the way that they did it. But
remember the arrows? They put arrows on the ground because the level design was so not good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was bad. And they even had Perfect Dark Core in mind too, but then Matra canceled it along with Cameo too.
It was in
our
Twitter account though. Was the Fable account. It was interesting that it didn't try to pretend to be a fan account, and I feel like that's because it's been the worst kept secret. So everybody already kind of knows from like just a lot of detailed rumors from Digital Foundry. I think they kind of got caught with the Perfect Dark one, expecting to be that more of their like big surprise. That one kind of played it off as, oh no, this is fan account,
Mm-hmm.
because it just
Well, it can't be a big surprise because no one is really familiar with Joanna Dark. Nobody's
No.
real familiar still with the Perfect Dark franchise.
with Shenmue, and that made grown men cry, and it was the biggest announcement Sony's had, one of their biggest ones this whole entire generation at E3.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
I was shocked when I
I
was
was too,
happy
but-
and ecstatic when Shenmue came out.
because it was on.
But in the end, how did Shenmue really do?
It did okay. It did well. It didn't. In this day and age, there's a new age of gamers out there. Myself and Mike's era is gone. We buy those types of games. We buy those types of experiences. But now, like I said, just the gaming generation, just like this, generation in general is just it's totally different.
It is. But what we don't have these days, what we don't have in the IP space, so to speak, is a spy game. Not today.
Splinter Cell, no DSX is
Not in this. I'm talking about in this with this generation of gamers. I would venture to say that this generation of gamers also don't know who Sam Fisher is.
Yeah.
And playing him in Ghost Recon as a mission doesn't do it.
I want to say that Phil and everybody at Xbox Game Studios, let's say they've been listening to, because we've talked about, we want new IP, but we also want beloved IP to return as well. And Perfect Dark, it does have a role to play in that. I've seen a lot of people, in the chat, and I respect their opinions, with it being rebooted like a Lara Croft and a Tomb Raider. I don't think you necessarily need to go down that route, but you can definitely meld it into what it already is, because you already have, Perfect Dark was about conspiracies and aliens, and you already had some fun gadgets in there. You can have all these open-ended levels and just really push up the whole spy / stealth elements to it, and I think that would be a fantastic combo.
And look who's supposed to be rumored to be doing it is Matt Gallagher, who actually made me and Saturn want to play Tomb Raider for the first time in our lives. So it rebooted that, so
Right.
to do it.
All right, gentlemen, I need to take off. It's been a pleasure. Mike, thanks for coming on again.
Brother Downer, always a pleasure, my friend.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
The crossover event's gonna continue. We're gonna start getting TXR people onto NLG.
Cool. Hit me up if you want. I'll leave you guys with this one thing. Brad Sams, you guys put in DM, was pretty interesting. It says, sounds like there's gonna be some reorganization happening with Microsoft. Good luck, everyone.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whatever that's supposed to mean. But anyway, I'll leave you with that. Again, I hope everybody had a great 4th of July.
You too. You too, brother.
I hope you guys take care. To the fans listening on the in chat. Hope you guys were well. Be safe, and we'll see you next week.
Definitely.
Peace out, Jeremy.
Yeah, see you later, Jeremy. All right, guys. Now, also, just touching on with Fable, I don't know if you saw it, guys. It was discovered that Microsoft recently applied to renew the Fable trademark as well with intent to use. So, if Fable's not coming in the next couple of weeks, I'll be very disappointed.
Yeah. Fable or We Riot? Is that what we're doing?
It looks like it's going to be Fable for sure. Perfect Dark, I would say it's I'm like 80% on it.
I don't know that Perfect Dark is coming. I think it's a mistake. Phil has dodged IP before. Remember, it took a third party to. Now, I'm not necessarily comparing this to Perfect Dark, but it took a third party to bring Voodoo Vids, which is a Microsoft first party. I mean, there's this first party IP that they sit on it could have such wide ranging effects to bring back. Perfect Dark, I think you were right. It has a part in the catalog. I mean, it's not a small IP. It's not a it's not. I think it has more pull than Sea of Thieves and State of Decay. I think it has, I think you can, and I think with a good studio and a good vision, I think you can reel that fan base back in, and you can bring in new fans that maybe heard about it on the N64 and on the Xbox. I mean, another one you brought up that I cannot believe that there has been no movement on is a sequel to Cameo. What an incredible game. No Banjo-Kazooie, no Conquer, no. I mean, you could just go down the line. He can't duck these forever.
Well, I think the intent is to build up all these studios to have two teams going at some point. Mm-hmm. And you brought up Double Fine, which I find to be a very interesting studio in the fact that they make quirky platformers. I mean, they do other things, but platformers seems to be their specialty. Mm-hmm. I could totally see them working on like old rare IP like Conquer, Banjo, or even a Cameo. Maybe it's possible. I wouldn't throw it out of the realm.
Like they have their like Mario. Like all you had to do is make a Banjo. Look at what Mario does, and some people on the N64 love Banjo more than the Mario 64. Thought that was superior. So it's like you have a mascot and you've used the Switch to amplify it with Smash. Like if you're not making or thinking about making a new Banjo or having maybe Double Fine or somebody, then I don't know.
Mm-hmm. No,
especially
absolutely.
A Conquer, like they could easily right there. If you want to, launch this xCloud and then maybe make some new IP after that, but I would at least get one of those in there.
You saw how much hype there was when Banjo was revealed for Smash Brothers.
Perfect. After you amplify it with Smash and the Switch. Like,
now,
be the next.
The timing of that, I just find interesting that they would, allow that on the Switch in Smash Brothers. I mean, it's cool. I bought it. I love Banjo.
And all those Nintendo fans, there's like, oh yeah, you want to play Banjo? Cool. Here's a little bit of them to get you hyped in that old look, not the 360 look. And oh wait, here we made a new Banjo. Oh, but it's only over here. So now that we got your nostalgia going.
Well, it's funny you say that
on at least your mobile phone.
It's funny you say that, Shock, because Clobriel was just in the chat. I'm sure he's listening, and I remember a hint that he was giving us. I think it was a year or two ago about possibly Playful working on a rare IP. Now, to what extent, I have no idea. What IP? Hard to say, but. I mean, they have made competent platform games, so I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they've been quiet kind of as of late. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw them do something with Microsoft. For all we know, they could be working on a new Viva Pinata.
Do you think they're gonna go mature with Conquer and Perfect Dark again?
Well, with Perfect Dark, I would say you would lean to yes. Conquer, I don't know. Conquer's a tough one.
Oh, Perfect Dark Zero was mature too.
Yeah, Conquer was mature.
Oh yeah, definitely mature.
Yeah, I would see. I couldn't see them making that. If they're gonna make a new kids game, I would bring Viva Pinata back. That's another.
That's where you can use Banjo. Yeah.
Yeah, you could use Banjo, but Viva Pinata was unique and very kid friendly.
No, absolutely. That was a fun one. But guys, also of note on IGDB, it's a games database owned by Twitch. There was a listing for another game that popped up, and it was Forza Motorsport 8. and there was a little bit of cover art there featuring a new Corvette. I actually thought it was a Ferrari, but it was a Corvette. And man, it looks like things are leaking all over the place for Microsoft right now. Would any of you guys be hyped for Forza Motorsport 8 come this fall?
Yeah,
Maybe.
I mean, I would definitely want. That's one of the show pieces that always, gets, because that's where you're going to be able to do what 120 FPS.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not with the ray tracing on, depending on, or maybe limited. But yeah, that should be and they've had an extra year to work on it, so. But yeah, it should be pretty solid.
Oh yeah, well that's the thing, right? The showcase games usually have a racer there, and with the launch of a console, and yeah, they've had 3 years to work on this sucker. Not to mention, I'm just I'll be curious to see what kind of content they have. With our chat with Jeremy and Jay earlier, we had brought up microtransactions. Forza 7 at first wasn't very well received because of different loot boxes and all that, and they had to kind of rework their in-game earning, like how they earn the items there. So I'll be curious to see how everything goes, but that you're going to see a beautiful game from Turn 10. I just hope that there's lots of cars, lots of tracks, and we see that those beautiful cars in action. And I have no doubt Turn 10 always seem to do us right. So I have
Yeah, it'll be a good matchup too, because you have GT7 finally. They haven't made it a full GT game since 2013, so this will be a good, matchup. What Turn 10 can do in 3 years, they've actually had the higher rated series overall, and since they've ever started with Forza Motorsport, they've been the best series, as critical acclaim between them and GT. So it'll be a good kind of matchup to see how they kind of stack up too, because usually they're kind of come out at different times. So
yeah. And it's time. It's been a couple of years now. It's they've been able to get under the hood a bit. Obviously, they need, in my opinion, especially now. With this whole thing, this whole July show, the more I think about it, imagine the Series X
to their online. That's a
But
all you have
imagine
to do is copy GT7 GT Sport. I mean, what they did there.
Absolutely, but imagine that they've been working on this long enough that they're going to launch this with the Series X. You're going to have, you could potentially have a mainline Halo and a mainline Forza Motorsport. Once Forza needs to launch with it. That right there puts you in some pretty good launch shape.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, absolutely. I think it's going to be interesting. Xbox and PlayStation, when they go head to head, when all the games get officially announced, like how everything's going to stack up. So this game versus that game, this one versus that one. It's I don't know, just an exciting time, guys. So I can't wait to see what gets announced at the event. I think Forza Motorsport 8 is very likely, obviously. So it's coming. It's coming. So
yeah, it's definitely coming.
Mm-hmm. Very exciting stuff. But on that note, guys, we will move on to other bits of news that have made the rounds. And speaking about July, a few days ago, Xbox has announced its Summer Game Fest demo event. Now, it starts July 21st and runs until the 27th. There will be demos for over 60 games for people at home to download and try out, including games like Destroy All Humans, Hellpoint, Haven, and a whole bunch more. Now, Centurion, what's your thoughts on this summer demo event? A lot of the demos being released aren't what you would call normal demos. I would say they're more show floor style demos, ones that we wouldn't really normally see on Xbox Live, right, on the storefront. So, is it a good idea to release these demos right now?
Yeah, definitely. How could I say it? I've never had the actual on the floor E3 experience, so I'm actually curious to see these demos. I feel like this is going to be kind of like an enlightening experience for me. I would love to see a game pre-build outside of a YouTube video, or I'm actually looking forward to this. I think this is going to be a really nice idea, a really original idea. I've always said that Xbox should take advantage of its game preview program, and also its God, what is the program where you guys get the dashboard early?
Oh, the Insider.
Insider program. Yeah. I feel like they should also take advantage of that insider program and let some of the more trusted insiders actually kind of play some of these pre-builds to kind of help with quality control, because that's one of the biggest demands for these games is quality control. So it's actually going to be really nice that they're technically letting these games out into the wild to kind of see what happens when people play these games. And technically they're going to be, this is all for all intents and purposes, they're going to be testing these games, seeing how some of the game mechanics work and getting input on it. And I'm pretty sure they're going to be asking people to give any input they can at websites and probably doing reviews on these demos. I'm looking forward to this whole experience. And like he even said in the article, some of these are not permanent, because this is not final builds. This is just to basically show the concept of what they're wanting to do. And even in the article, it said these builds are actually for some games that are actually years away.
Yeah, and that's what sucks too, because obviously if we get some of these games a little too early, don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining about this, because I do like the fact that they're doing this. They're trying to make up for E3. And hey, I've never been a part of a show floor either. Never been to an E3. I was hoping to go this year, but well, look what happened. But some of these games, yeah, they're going to be far off, and games can change, within, a long stretch like that. So it'd be interesting. Again, this is an interesting experiment that they're doing, right? So
I think that they won't say it, but this is a pilot. I think this is a pilot program to really test the feasibility of whether it's time to pull the plug on E3. And Microsoft is the last man standing when it comes to press conference, show floor, and now doing their own in their own place. But they really, Sony was not going to be there regardless. Nintendo does a direct, and I can't remember if they had I think they did have a show floor presence, but it wasn't, it's not what it usually was in years past. Microsoft was really the last big company of the three to support E3 in any meaningful way. And I think that if this goes well, then they know how to move forward. Being someone who has been on the E3 floor and who knows exactly what these demos are, I think that this is something that, what you've gotten in the past was, NLG, taking a camcorder and walking the show floor and showing you footage of these games, and then, telling you all about it, right? You're going to see that footage anyway, because we've taken the camcorder footage, or we've, done something with the demo. And now, with Digital Foundry, they analyze every freaking demo that comes down the line. The easiest way to get people to see what's going on without opening up an entire show floor is to put it in their hands. You don't, and they're saying exactly what they need to say outright. There's, what you see is not necessarily what you're going to get. These are, I'm assuming that when you launch a demo for this, you're going to get a disclaimer right at the beginning of the demo that says this is pre-alpha, this is alpha, this is pre-beta, this is whatever. It may break, it may not work right. You may flutter through a wall or two, but but this is what it is. And the one of the things that they said was, which is interesting, these demos will only be up on the Xbox dashboard for a week. Some might be republished to the demo channel later on, but many will simply evaporate at the end of the week. So it's not even though you're going to be able to sit and play this thing for months until the game comes out. It's just a look. It's the same look that you would get if you were on the show floor. I think this is a test for them to see if this is how they go forward year in and year out.
Can I also throw another conspiracy out there? I'm not saying yours is a conspiracy. I'm saying mine is way out of whatever field you want to call it conspiracy. I think this is also another test for xCloud. Call me weird.
No, absolutely. Are you kidding?
No,
absolutely.
No, because Phil Spencer bragged in that interview recently about how they're using the xCloud servers to upload pre-alphas of these games, so that way the developers at home can work on them and actually find issues with the games and actually play the pre-alpha versions of games that have been uploaded into xCloud. And as soon as I saw this, I was like, I wonder if they're going to be using the xCloud systems to basically create this, because this is where all these uploaded pre-alphas of all these games are going to be housed.
That's going to be, it's going to
call me a conspiracy.
No. I like where you're thinking. I think the question, the better way to frame that question is, will you be able to download these demos, or can you only stream them?
That's what if the demos are stream only, then that kind of says it right there. I'm kind of saying
absolutely, because then also, because you're using that xCloud, you can pull. That's how they would pull them, because if you can download these demos, and one of those, so say one of them is the demo for Haven, right? Which is on here. So Haven's going to be one of those things that we can demo. If you download it and then the download link goes away at the end of the week and you still have access to play that demo until the game comes out, then we know it's just a regular, download. But if the whole thing goes away and you can't even play it anymore, then that's an interesting way to use xCloud. And you may be absolutely right.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Now, the timing of this event, it's on from until the 27th. It's interesting that with the July Xbox event nearing, do you guys think that we'll see the Xbox July event announced like the same week as the Summer Game Fest?
Well, let's see. Looking at the July calendar, so the 21st is Tuesday, the 27th is a Monday. So this is a Tuesday to a Monday. They have the whole rest of the week to Friday. I would think they'd have their big show after this. The 28th, 29th, 30th, or 31st.
So you think they're going to leave it maybe, like, let's say if they do it kind of like in the inside Xbox time frame, like they could do it sometime in the middle of the week, like a Wednesday or a Thursday kind of a deal.
The 29th or 30th.
Yeah.
I mean, it gives them all week to do a show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It would be a good way either to start off things or, just to get everybody, in the announcement gaming mood, get some demos out. According to Tim, there might be some kind of an announcement coming tomorrow or Tuesday. We have no idea.
I have a game demo that might get some people going. What would you do if Phil Spencer walked out on stage and said, go ahead and play the Halo Infinite multiplayer beta right now?
That would be phenomenal.
Well, yeah, that is supposed to be coming. 343 have clarified that. Yeah.
They usually do that months before.
Yep.
So that would make sense at this point.
Theirs is an actual beta and not a demo.
Oh, no, I respect it when they do it. Like, I remember back in for Halo 5 and Halo 4, they had it months ahead of time. So you know that they're putting in the effort into actually trying to adjust the game mechanics or the maps or whatever it may be. So
I think that that might be a shoo-in for that week, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you know how many people you'd have using your services just for like a week just to demo game alone?
I'll test your servers.
Yeah.
I also still stand behind. I think they're going to dedicate about an hour to Halo Infinite, purely because you're going to have a half hour wrapped up in the game and its development, but then you're going to have that new engine, and we all saw what an engine does for, like when Unreal Engine 5 was shown. So I'm pretty sure Microsoft is going to want to show off that new engine that they created for Halo.
Yeah, but an hour's a bit long to show a game.
But we're talking about, I say that they're wanting to do events over a week period of time. So you could kind of have, that's why I'm saying you wouldn't have a full hour dedicated to Halo. I really see, but it's going to be around Halo because they're going to be using Halo as the game to show the engine. And I really do say they're going to 15 to 30 minutes on this engine they probably created, because how long was the tech demo for Unreal Engine 5?
Right, but it was only showing off the engine and no other games. I hear. So are you saying that the Halo Infinite would be a separate show?
I'm saying the Halo Infinite. I'm saying maybe it could be a separate deal, purely because there might just be so much information that they want to share about the game, a little bit how multiplayer is going to work, the story, the advances in gameplay. They're also going to want to show the engine, because they've put like $500 million into this game, supposedly, theoretically. So I'm saying like that in itself, like, call me weird, might actually constitute at least a good chunk of time for any show, because that's a huge investment.
I think that I totally understand what you're saying, Centurion, but they need to cram in as many different games into this time period as possible. And I think they will have a good chunk of time dedicated to Halo Infinite for sure, because everybody's wondering, when are we going to see more information about this game? They will.
But I see where Centurion's going. What if they show the vertical slice that they're going to show, because they're going to, but instead of dragging it out where people, yes, they want to see Halo, but at this point they want to see the other games too. And I swear after these consoles come out and after this generation, if I never hear the word banger ever again, I'll be happy. But people want to hear about the other games too. They want to hear about what the other 14 studios have coming up. And I think what to Centurion, I think he comes up with a great point. They show their vertical, and then they say, August something is going to be an Inside Xbox dedicated to, because that's what Sony's been doing, dedicating a state of play to Last of Us 2. They dedicated one to Ghost of Tsushima. There is no reason why Microsoft in August can't do an Inside Xbox that's dedicated to Halo Infinite. I think that would be huge.
See, that actually takes my idea and blows it out of the water, because you actually put it into a more relevant statement on. I just see them because Halo is a flagship franchise, and they have a new game engine, and they're going to be like wanting to show how light reflects works off this, particle effects that, and they're just also wanting to probably maybe even show the loading capabilities of the Series X.
Yeah, right. So, well, I give you full credit for this idea, because that's exactly what Microsoft should do to keep the momentum up. Because if you think about it, and I'm not, I hesitate to get into this because I don't want people, starting to roll out the fanboy remarks or anything like that. But Sony has now a lull. Okay, they've shown the PS5, they've shown Last of Us 2, they've shown Ghost of Tsushima. They don't yet really have a launch title worthy of its own show for the PS5. Microsoft has an opportunity to take the next 2 to 3 months to bring back the folks that were, for all intents and purposes, kind of backing away from the first show they had. This is an opportunity for them to regain some spotlight that they need before launch.
Well, they've been slowly building up to this point, Mike, with their services, different initiatives.
Yep.
It's been building up to this with xCloud. It's I really hope they get their messaging on point.
Now's the time.
Say one thing about the first show. I know the first show where they touched on the Medium and Scorn and a couple other great horror-based games. We all know what was his name? Aaron Greenberg in front of the fridge holding a Halo helmet. I understand that there has been some shows for Microsoft that have been very lackluster or low budget, like especially when it comes to Inside Xbox. But we all know when it came to the actual big shows, they kind of threw some money at it. They were holding them in their own theaters. They actually wanted the shows to look nice when they were the great big shows. I felt it was kind of funny how they went first in this whole summer of games with Jeff Keighley. Imagine Xbox going before Sony. Imagine that. And this is new. So what do? Do we just do this out of our house, or do we do it low budget? Do we do it high budget? What do we do? But because Microsoft went first, they obviously chose the let's do it from our houses thing, because actually a lot of places were actually a lot more stringent on their quarantine, especially when it comes to filming. Now, actually, there's a little bit more looseness when it comes to being able to film with multiple people in the room. So I feel bad that they had to go first, because it was the first time anybody had been put in that situation. So I feel bad that honestly they're being judged on that whole situation, that no company had ever been put in a situation that you have to do a show for that many people, but you're not allowed to leave your house. Could you imagine the logistics of trying to pull this off as a company?
Yeah. Look, I wasn't one of those who came out and trashed Microsoft after the first show. I got it. I understood it. I didn't think Sony's show, for all the bluster about all the stuff that they showed, I wasn't blown away by them either. There's
no, and I saw it because it was all filmed in a black room and nobody was. It was the same thing, just with a different backdrop.
Nothing so far has on either side. Nothing so far has caught my attention. This is where, and look, that show was in May, so you're talking, June, July, August, September, October, November at least. You're 6 months out. And you're in an environment where people are going to forget that show, no matter what you showed, because we're just in this new fast-paced era where any little announcement on Facebook, on Twitter, on social media takes the attention. So why throw that out there 6 months? I get that idea. Now they have to deliver. This is where everybody is hyped. Everybody is. I have not seen a hype like this in a while, which is why I think the whole thing with the Twitter accounts and whether or not these games are coming or not. I made a very poignant statement to Aaron Greenberg. You can't continue to not listen to your fans. I think that everybody is hyped for this, because and they're hyped for it without Microsoft really hyping it as much. They just said they're having a show in July. It's not Microsoft that has gone out and said this is going to be the biggest show ever. It's everybody else that's kind of in the periphery that are looking at it. The Windows Centrals and the folks on social media that are not part of Microsoft, they're the ones going, you guys have no idea how big the show is going to be. And so what you're getting now is a natural hype rather than a Microsoft set hype. And I think that's where Microsoft has an opportunity to deliver, but it's where Microsoft needs to be watching carefully that they do deliver.
Mm-hmm. And I'll say this, over this gen, there's been a lot of doom and gloom over the Xbox brand. There's been a lot of, it hasn't exactly been cheerful. And I'm excited for this. I'm really excited to see what Microsoft and Xbox have in store. I like being the white pill when it comes to this stuff, fellas, and I'm stoked. We're gonna get game announcements. We're gonna get, I'm assuming, price point on the console and so much more. I'm stoked. I want to see more Halo and just everything else. And Microsoft has a lot to show, and they've been building up to this point, like I've been stating. So we have a lot to look forward to. Does anyone else have anything else to say before we move on?
I'm sorry, what? I was distracted by Mike's walls.
Apparently my room has triggered people.
Yeah,
apparently.
Oh, Daz is going crazy.
Oh man, UK Daz. Yeah, wearing the sunglasses there, pal. Oh, I bet you're in. I can see you in bed. It's just pitch black in your bedroom there, and you got the sunglasses on, the shades, sporting them, rocking. All right, fellas, we will move on to what will be our last topic of the evening, and it looks like Xbox's secret, cheaper second console, Lockhart, will be packing a bit of a punch. Now, according to Tom Warren of The Verge, Xbox Lockhart will feature the exact same CPU speeds as the powerful Xbox Series X, citing documentation that he has. Lockhart will also include 7.5 gigabytes of usable RAM and around 4 teraflops of GPU performance. The aim for Lockhart seems to be to target consumers looking for the next gen experiences at lower resolutions and quite possibly at a cheaper price point. Now, Shock, I'll hit you up on this one. Could Xbox really undercut Sony's PlayStation 5 with this lower resolution, cheaper console? Because from what we keep hearing here, and again, the Xbox Lockhart is one of the worst kept secrets for like the past year. Could we really see them like be competitive on pricing? And I would think especially against the digital focused PS5 at this point.
Yeah, I think this is definitely where they can come in, kind of undercut and get a really good price point, like probably around 300. I think that's what everybody's assuming. And really they give you all the big focal point of like next gen, which will be like SSD. It's supposed to have like the same SSD size and speed. Similar CPU, but not as many CUs. And then I think about the same amount of memory. So, I mean, I have a 1440p monitor, so it sounds like something like that would be, great for some of those people as well. And not everybody, especially if you're trying to do the higher frames per second, then, you might not really care too much about. You might, like a lot of us are playing at 1080p this gen, like on the 1S and the PS4 Slim. So they're used to that. And now you could just take that and amplify up to maybe 60 FPS or higher with this new console with fast speeds with SSD. And so you're still, and probably still ray tracing. So you're still getting a lot of the next gen perks at a really budget price. And depending on what these new next gen consoles are going to be, maybe $500. You're looking at a 200 to maybe 150 price gap in there. So that could be. And it could be even lower if it's all digital. This might come in at 250.
Well, recently, according to Ryan McCafferty of IGN's podcast Unlocked, he was saying that he's been hearing that Lockhart will be priced at $300 US. Now, would that be like a nail in the coffin of the PS5 digital edition? We don't know the price, obviously. There's nothing officially said, but $300, that's a pretty low entry point for next gen games.
Yeah, I don't think it could. I mean, it could be the only thing, and this is what I've been saying from the beginning as far as like the PS5 being possibly either version being $400 is if that were the case, they would have said it. If the digital one was $400 and the one with the disc was either $450 or $500, I feel like they know that at least Xbox's mainline console and lower than with Xbox Series X lower than $400. That's like a clear-cut safe bet. That's not gonna happen. So I feel like if it was $400, they would have said it. They would have not just, hey, let's wait for Microsoft, because they don't want to go that low probably. Otherwise, they would have just announced it.
I have a feeling
this could be a
go ahead.
do it if there's enough of a price cap. I think the Lockhart can't be just $100 or $50 lower than their digital, because then at that point, then people are like, hey, well, maybe I just spend the extra money and I get a more powerful system. When it's that small of a difference.
Well, Phil said they were going to be very competitive when it came to the console pricing, and when I hear Phil Spencer say something like that, a lot of things go through my mind. You know, how cheap will it be? If Ryan McCafferty's hearing like that they're willing to go as low as $300 for an entry point console, that would, you get a lot of people joining in there. So,
Yeah.
Especially with next gen features like ray tracing, having the SSD in there, being able to play the next gen games. If it's all digital, I mean, that might, I don't know. I mean, some people love digital. It depends.
But what is that? And what is your trade-off going to be then? I this is why I struggle with this thing still existing. I mean, at $300, what stops you with all of these great things? What then motivates you to spend the $600? I've never bought into this Lockhart being a real thing. If anything, I still think that, especially now with Sony not having, their second SKU being basically a digital version of their first SKU of their main system, I struggle with Microsoft making a less powerful system, but still powerful enough to be, I don't know. I'm not. There's something missing for me there. So I still think Lockhart is just a digital version of the Series X. And if they could do that and subsidize that cost with their digital services, I think that's where they, you guys remember the term loss leader, right? What consoles used to do. Consoles used to sell at a loss, they make it back up in the software. Well, now you have you could sell a console at a loss to make it back up in the service, because that's a subscription cost you're constantly getting. I think that's also why you see you've got Microsoft All Access or Xbox All Access, whatever they call it, where you can pay off the system, and if you buy an X, a regular X now, you could trade it in for a Series X. I'm just not sure what nobody's told us what they think the difference is going to be. Are you only getting 1440p versus 4K? Are you getting ray tracing but at 30 frames per second rather than 60? I mean, it still doesn't make sense to me yet.
Yeah, it's supposed to be just pretty much a lower end GPU and then just in the same CPU, so that'll be easy. So it'd be kind of like PC, where it's just like you're just scaling. That's all they're having to worry about. So
is it going to be all digital as well, though?
That's how it's being suggested, is that
I think that's smart, because to get it as low as possible and just make it fly off the shelves. Especially, that's the other thing, and I may have said this last week, they might get people to think that, oh, well, this is just Xbox. This is the Xbox Series X digital version, just like the PS4 or PS5 disclet or all digital edition is like that's their version. So they might trick a lot of people just by association that, oh, this is just like the higher one. It's just one without the disc. So I'm still getting the more powerful console. So they might think, some consumers might think that they're getting the most powerful console when they're not. But
that would backfire.
Yeah,
That'd backfire.
Well, it's like all the I don't think that would really backfire. Well, just because you had there were so many like people that I had that were like parents and didn't play any games. And at the beginning of this gen, they're like, well, I don't want to buy my son an Xbox One because it can't do 1080p. But it's like, well, neither does the PS4. And in a lot of cases at the start of the gen, it would only do 900p.
Phil Spencer has been preaching clear messaging.
Well, they might make it clear. I'm just saying it might be association of like, oh, it can do similar. Like they're probably not going to think it's going to be like, oh, this is like
maybe
really underpowered.
Maybe there might be consumers that would probably get confused, possibly. I thought for a second you were suggesting that Microsoft was going to deliberately try to create this confusion, and that's why I was saying that would backfire on Microsoft, because Microsoft is
just like people assume things about the beginning of this gen.
And now that you've said that,
like people still say like PS Now it's just a streaming platform when it's not. Like people just assume things. So I'm just saying like that might make it fly off shelves still. When people are trying to buy it, like, hey, this isn't like super weak, it's just but I don't know, the price difference might.
Now that you said that, now that makes me wonder how in the world they'll even be able to message this.
Well, I think the people, Rand was saying that he thinks it's going to be more of the shape of like, say, the Xbox One S or the Xbox One X. Not like this GameCube size thing that's supposed to look. So I think that's kind of like, hey, this Xbox Series X, this is our new tower. This is the next gen console. Oh, and here's just like something in between. So it's enough of a different look to not like confuse people in that sense.
What I just don't always go into the idea of sheeple. There's different versions of cell phones out there. There's different versions of refrigerators, televisions. I do feel that they're going to make it clear enough, at least for any consumer that's willing to do any ounce of research would be able to figure it out.
I don't think it's going to be confusing in the sense that, oh, I'm going to go into the store and like not know which one to get. They're both probably going to be very different shapes, which would be smart because then people aren't going to I bought the wrong box by accident, which might happen with the PS5 because they're very similar look. And like, oh, I bought the digital because, it's maybe they're running out and I just grabbed the digital one and I grabbed some games. Oh, well, Timmy can't play them because these games have disc and this is the digital edition. I'm stupid. I bought the wrong. That's one that could confuse and
out of all the editions that are coming out on these consoles, this guy's got these ones. The other guy's got different ones. I'm curious on how it's going to happen on when they are going to actually finally talk about pre-order dates on these consoles outside of price. And then what happens when one releases a pre-order date? Does the other one release a pre-order date the next day? Do they wait a week? Do they try to you could go in the store and pre-order both consoles at the same time, or is one become available for pre-order before the other? That's where it's just like, especially with right now on the fact that you can't really go into some of these stores and, oh my God, I don't even want to think about what's going to happen trying to order some of these consoles online. I mean, some of these websites are probably going to crash. And so that's where I'm just totally in my mind. Outside of price and all that, I feel like what could be created by what I just don't know how it's going to be to get these consoles anymore. I had a plan to trade in a console, and now I don't even know how that's going to work.
Yeah, I wonder how late it's going to get that before someone's going to announce a price, because neither of them want to go first.
Well, rumor is that, again, August is looking like, it looks like Xbox having some kind of a Lockhart event.
And Sony's supposed to have one. in August is the rumor as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's correct. So I would imagine pre-order dates. Again, this is me guessing, but it could very well be sometime in August. Like we could look at
That's
it late
so late.
August. Well, everything has been late, so
Yeah.
October, November.
But you have to get the orders and like pre-orders and stuff like that.
So
I feel
you
like
could
that's
have-
enough
Yeah.
time. Like
You
I think
could
it's like a 90 days at least or something.
I
You
think
could
August
have-
would be plausible in any case. But if they push it back anymore, it'd be too difficult.
I just wonder how they're going to decide who do we go first, or do we just go for it? We'll do 500. Hope Sony doesn't undercut us at 400. Like I don't know.
Well, who's gonna blink first, right?
Yeah.
I just say that
They're running out of room.
The only way I
Daylight.
feel like Microsoft can go first is if they're willing to do 400. Like otherwise, I wouldn't go first.
I think that's their probably plan B. See, I was saying that we got this big event at the end of July that's probably going to be all games.
It will.
And then there was that rumored thing about Lockhart being revealed in August. So you could see a console reveal event, or at least a console event sometime in August that would pretty much lay it all out on the table. And then probably at the end of said event, say pre-order at the end of August. Basically giving people a couple weeks to kind of get some things in order to at least throw down $100 on a pre-order for a console, or to be able to go online and, put in the credit card information to get one.
And that could be a pretty big shot across the table right there. If after supposed to have all these big announcements, they announce that the Xbox Series X is going to be $400. They know that Sony, even if Sony did, there's no way Sony's doing like less than $400
no.
discless version. So if that's the case, if they have to get at 400 with their discless version, you're already winning, because then you got one that can take disc. That's not like all digital, so you get the option, and it's supposed to be more powerful, and at the same but they don't care about selling consoles. I get that, because they just want to sell the subscription. But
Now that's where I'm pretty sure when they thought of,
they
what
do that.
if
That's like a
PlayStation
huge
doesn't go
news thing for them too. And
what if PlayStation doesn't go first? I'm pretty sure that has probably come up so many times in a discussion with all the board members over there at Microsoft. What if PlayStation doesn't go first? So it's kind of like, what would be your absolute bottom dollar that you would be willing to put that console at to, I guess, kind of set the market standard at that point, because the other guy hasn't gone. So you don't want to look like you're overpricing it.
I feel like it's also a guarantee now that there's no way that the disc version of the PS5 is going to be 400, because then there's just no way that discless version that's supposed to still be this next gen console is going to be less than 400. So I think that's a safe bet for them. Like, there's no way Sony's going to be able to go that low.
Yeah, and I think if Lockhart really is a discless version of the Series X, that's how it gets to 300.
Yeah, don't want to say bare bones, but I mean, if they're taking out, I guess you would say, unnecessary things to lower the price, yeah, that would probably be it for sure. All right, fellas. I think on that note, we're gonna end off tonight's show. And damn, I gotta say, what an incredible show we had tonight. Talking about all kinds of interesting Xbox game rumors and leaks, where game prices are heading, Xbox Game Fest demo updates, and certainly, all kinds of other stuff going on. Wonderful chat, guys. And of course, a huge shout out to all the wonderful people that tuned in tonight. Definitely all kinds of activity going on in the chat as per usual. People like, I know we had Noof Nukem in here earlier.
Yeah.
We had John in here from NLG, HTK, Logic Wins. Always good to see you, bud. I'm Mill. Great chats going on here. Vogels Krieg. Who else? There were so many people that jumped in here. Sorry if I missed you.
Even Dan Rodriguez was in.
Yeah, I saw Dan.
Season, yeah.
Yeah, Dan, that was nice. Thanks for dropping in, Dan. Other Zinc, regular here. Diego, of course. Everybody check out Diego's art. He does some really awesome stuff. Obviously, he did it for us.
He'd have gotten mad at me if I didn't say the word amico sometime during the show.
Amico, yes. Dreadpool brother, thanks for tuning in. The indie gamer Fastback, of course, from WDFC NLG, and just so many. Michael Monkey Punch, thanks, buddy, and so many more. Guys, if you enjoyed tonight's show, then hey, consider leaving a like, sharing this out across social media, and subscribe to keep up to date on further TXR shows and so much more. All right, guys, let's get on to the outros, and we'll start with our guest. Mike, always a pleasure having you with us. Thanks for joining. Where can everybody find you and listen in?
Well, I want to first thank you guys for having me. It's always fun being on with you guys. One day I hope to be on with the whole crew, because it's been quite a long time since I've talked to Tim Dog, and so chopping it up with him should be fun. So you can find me, Stinger NLG, on Twitter, on Xbox, the original NLG on PlayStation, because they don't like the word Stinger for whatever reason. And then, of course, you can find the original Next Level Gaming show Thursday nights, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, over on our channel. If you just put in Next Level Gaming into YouTube search, we are still the first thing you see. So, come check us out. We've got we're developing some great extra things. There's not always a lot to talk about, and we're not so much into the rumor and that kind of thing. We leave that, for you guys to talk about the rumors and stuff, because you guys have much better insights than we do on a lot of that stuff. So we're working through, doing more segment-based work, segment-based stuff. So come check us out. It's a lot of fun. I have a great crew. They're all in the chat room, and my confidants. So, but thanks again. Great show, guys, and I really enjoyed tonight.
Oh, absolutely. Again, thanks for coming on, and yeah, we'll do this more often for sure. We got to get a game night going.
Yes, and we'll have you guys on NLG as well. And sorry to disappoint, but the next time you see me, Daz, the walls will still be gold.
Definitely. And remember, fellas, #Gamers United Guild. We're all we got a little group here going on. Just I don't want to say a family, but like a friendship between a couple of podcasts going on, and NLG, Retro Renegades, and Four Guys with Quarters. Just like-minded podcasts, you could say, and we support each other. So definitely check out everybody in the group.
Support and be supported.
Of course. And this goes without saying, we had J-Dubs, the graphic god, with us earlier. I'd love to have him on again. It was great he's a great guy in the community. I can't talk highly enough about him. You can find Jay Williams, the graphic god, on Twitter at graphic_god. And you can check out his website, Xbox Gamer Picks, if he makes little avatars and Xbox Gamer Picks for everybody. So definitely check out his work if you're interested. And without further ado, the rest of the TXR panel. Obviously, Jeremy had to leave early, but Shock Buddy, hey, you had an excellent show tonight. Where can everybody find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Shock Nero on Twitter, Easy Shock on Xbox Live. But yeah, thanks for stopping by. A great show.
Definitely, pal. All right, Centurion, you had some really good points this evening. Excellent show all around. And where can everybody find you, bud?
As always, you can find me right here every Sunday night, kicking it with you fine gentlemen on TXR. I also do the Shop Podcast every Saturday night. And you can also follow me on Twitter, YouTube, and Xbox Live at Centurion1307.
Perfect. And of course, guys, as for me, you all can find me on my YouTube channel, Invader Gaming, as well on Twitter at Invader_1986. I hope everybody has a wonderful night, and we cannot wait to see you next weekend for another show. Take it easy, fellas.